This little light of mine, this light of mine, ay, I'm gon' let it shine, I let it shine. Ay.
What's up? What's up? Hello. Welcome back to the Man Kave Experience with myself, Cedric Edison, and the great man I get to call my friend Ron Serving. Man, as always for me, and I'm sure Ron has the same sentiments, man, we love you guys joining us, repeat listeners, new listeners, across the board, man. We appreciate y'all tuning in, spending this time. And that's what it's all about. That's why we created this, one, just to kind of have a space for me and him, if nothing else, to talk, but just to create a space where it's authentic conversation, you know, between two dudes, and we just put it out there in the universe to just kind of talk about the change we want to see, and then hopefully help somebody, you know, along the way. But yeah, before I go any further, man, let me have Ron introduce himself. What's happening? What's good with you?
I am just checking in, feeling good. Just for a couple reasons. One, just listening back and kind of finishing the editing on the last episode with Chris. Just really got a bunch of little nuggets kind of after the fact, listening to that, and just what he was able to bring to, you know, as a different layer to our talk about vulnerability. So really kind of cool just listening back on that as just a listener, and just, you know, kind of capturing a few things that I didn't pick up on as much during the conversation. It's interesting because before we even started, you know, pushing the record button tonight, we didn't know what to talk about. And I think that's, I guess, some of the challenges as us as men is we don't know what to talk about, right? So then what is our go-to, or what do we feel comfortable bringing up, you know, in conversation to, you know, create a connection? And I think that's kind of what happened tonight. So for me, checking in, feeling amazing, feeling just connected to this space, as Cedric mentioned, that we've created. Whatever value it has for others, it has a huge value for us as men, trying to be the best version of ourselves. And just really kind of feeling cool that this evolved into Cedric kind of coming up with what he felt was resonating with him tonight. And that's what we're going to talk about. So I won't be a spoiler alert. I'm going to turn it back over to Ced, and he's going to introduce the topic, and we're just going to have a free-flowing conversation about whatever comes up around that. So, Ced?
All right, so to give y'all a little backstory, how this even came to mind, I was challenged by a fellow coach friend to do 100 Facebook Lives, 100 consecutive Facebook Lives, 100 days. And so I was just trying to keep my mind stayed on stuff to talk about. And something that came up was I was just kind of looking back over my life and, you know, how I was with my father, because really I was holding my son, who was almost 4 months, and I was just thinking, man, it's not much in the world that I wouldn't do for him. You know, like I love this little dude. Like, he's only been with me for 4 months, but like I'd go to the hell and back for him. And, you know, nothing against my dad or anything like that. I mean, I love him to death, and I'll go to bat for him just like any other family member of mine, because he did what he did the best with what he had, but he really wasn't there. And then I started thinking about a lot of my friends, and they have conversations with, you know, we have conversations, and they bashing the mom, or the mom is bashing them. And I know in my community, I see a big need to have healthy relationships with the significant other or spouse, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. So I want to kind of introduce it to you guys and to Ron, just to kind of talk about, because we're two different dudes. Like in my community, African American community, and the Caucasian community, or whatever, you know, just different backgrounds. So do you even feel like there's a need, or does it happen that way for you in your circle, where you see there's a need for healthy relationships between the significant others?
I mean, without a doubt. I mean, I think when you look at couples that, you know, were together for short period of time, long period of time, whatever that may be, and then a child becomes part of their lives, whether it's through adoption or through, birth. I see it all the time where you just see that couple that, although there's differences and they may be no longer together and they have, differences that created, a need to kind of separate or divorce or whatever that looks like. But yet there's that underlying desire to still make it best for the child, kind of that unselfish, kind of early stages when we have a child that we know, they're so in need of us to create, all the basic needs for them as young babies that have no ability to, kind of allow that to happen in their lives. But then opposite of that, you see, and here, and I've experienced plenty of couples that just allow or make the children be that barrier in between the relationship. The father dropping off the child at the mother's house or vice versa, and just there's no communication, and pitting one versus the other, and not really kind of giving the value that the other person in that child's life deserves, knowing that they're equally a part of that child's growth. So when you start demeaning one or the other, or not really giving that other person the ability to defend themselves or to actually share kind of how they feel about what's being said about them in a productive way, that child has mixed messages. So I think as those things move forward in their lives, most likely, unfortunately, they're going to have those tools to work with on how they deal with issues that come up in their own relationships. And it's tough because, you see the hurt, you see the pain that couples go through when they decide or make the decision to, no longer have the relationship that they once had. But why is there not that need to, at a capacity that's going to benefit the child, to keep that relationship going? The father can just be just as much of a father as he is in a relationship where the mother's not there, in a different way, because there might be certain things in certain scenarios where you kind of have to act as the mother if there's a extended period of time where there's certain needs of the child to at least have that feminine type connection, which as men we have that part of us that can tap into what a woman can provide intellectually, and not necessarily physically, but just on a level of connection that we can give to those children. So it's tough because you see children that grow up having these issues that were a seed of bad decisions by their parents many, many years ago. So it's not exclusive to, I think, to a certain race. I think it's probably something that happens in every type of race out there, unfortunately. And there's really, I guess, not an easy solution to those that have pushed the envelope too far to create that change. So I guess as fathers, us now, whatever happens in our relationship, I think there's that need to always ensure that our children are getting everything they need from their mother, everything from their father, whether they're together or apart, and just understand how that is so necessary for that child to really, move through a tough situation and all three, the whole life of the family.
Man, man, you got my wheels turning now. So
because you see that a lot, right? I mean, it sounds like you see that on a regular basis, maybe more often than I see it, because you did come from a smaller town. So, what do you see? I mean, what is your experience when you look at the community that you live in? What type of separation do you see between, mothers, fathers, children, how they grow up, all those things that factor into how they become in their, older life?
Man, probably out of all the people that I personally know, I could and I mean, it's a couple thousand people that I personally know, and maybe a couple hundred that I see or can see on a daily. And I could probably count on 5, maybe 7 fingers how many people are married or in a relationship with the kid's father. So or mother, or vice versa. I don't want to just put it that way. Um, so it's almost it's very uncommon for me to see something. I'm like, oh wow, y'all married, y'all together, cool. Hey, tell me what the hell, how
Yeah.
y'all do it? Um, and maybe 8 if you count me. So I mean, that's really all I see. Um, it's not a lot of we talked about it. Yeah, I guess it's not a lot of role models out there uh,
Mm-hmm.
for the up and coming generation in my community. It's really not. Um, the the thing is, it's great to be single. Like it's almost taboo to be in a relationship. Well, because a lot of trust issues all out, infidelity. You know, people afraid of infidelity or whatever the case may be. Um, I really don't know, uh, and that's what blows me away. And when I think about it, because for me, I was there, and it's just, and it blows my mind. Most of them were there too, without a dad or mom or somebody. Somebody's gone, and to come up and follow in those same footsteps, just I don't understand how one could do that. Um, I mean, I might be tooting my own horn, but I could never see me not wanting to be around my kid. Like, I mean, he can't talk to me, man, but the coolest thing is you laying there and feel him snuggle up to you. It's like, wow, that's the stuff you're going to remember. Like, not the point where we sitting there and I'm tired of fish hooks or Phineas and Ferb. Like, oh my God, I can't do another cartoon. You know?
But it oftentimes turns tragic, right? You see, these crazy, killing, suicide, mass, killing of mother, son, daughter, whatever, and then killing themselves. It's like to relieve themselves of the pain apparently that they feel. They feel like the only way out is to end it for everybody versus, kind of removing themselves from the problem, allowing the mother and son or whatever to continue on in their life, and for them to kind of figure it out and move on in their life, and hopefully support that relationship and have, some sort of desire to continue a relationship, with their son or daughter. But how many times do we, hear in the news that, there's these families that,
get broken up by that shit.
yeah,
Shit, it's a ton, man, and that's just the ones that we hear about.
right.
Because, man, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Because I struggled with that for the longest. Shit, man, I used to wonder what it was that I was doing that made my dad not want to be around. And I'll be up, man, like I couldn't give my mom more props than, man, I give her mad props, because the one thing she did do, and for any of y'all listening out there, like, personally coming up from it, I don't think it's a good idea to badmouth the other parent.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the case, mama, like I never heard my mom say one bad thing about my dad ever, ever until I was probably around 15 or 16. But that was when I started asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she wanted me to find, and I asked, I was like, it hit me. I was like, Mama, I don't never really remember you talking about my daddy or talking bad about him. And she was like, that wasn't my place to do. She was like, I wanted you to form your own conclusion. I didn't want you to be picking sides or nothing. So I would encourage you, if you do have ill feelings, one, work them out. You can reach out to me or Ron. I'm sure we can coach you through these, right?
But and I think it takes zero courage to say these things to others that are going to listen into what you have to say about somebody negative light versus, being man enough or woman enough or human enough to make the conversation between you and that person. If there's, I think when you look at arguments, obviously it takes two people to kind of enter into a discussion that ends up being an argument, but how can those situations be handled in a much better way? Obviously there's a lot of factors that go into how these cases escalate from, a relationship early on, and then a child, and then, difficulties, challenges, loss, all these things that transpire, and then these terrible results. What are the early stages where, efforts can be made, whether it's, being a better listener or a better communicator, things that we don't oftentimes look at as our own responsibility versus, pointing the finger and saying, you're this or you're that, and you're not the mother that my child needs, or you're not giving me what I need in my life, me versus, what can I do in the relationship or in my life to create opportunities for that person I'm with to have a better experience. It's that whole, selfishness. I even, I spoke to my father, face to face, before he passed, about his, at times, saying, oh, I just feel like just taking my life, and he didn't. I mean, I was fortunate that didn't happen, but I was blunt with him. I just told him, I think that's the most selfish act that anybody can take, is to take their own life. And then to compound that with taking somebody else's life as a result of your own pain. I mean, maybe it sounds harsh, and I'm just trying to be real, but I just think that shows no courage, total selfishness, and just a complete lack of understanding of what life is and what it should be. Just an easy way out, just pushing the easy button and saying, I can just remove myself, remove the history of all these things that may continue after I'm gone, by making the worst possible case decision and moving forward with that. So, it's like going back in time, as we look at our parents and, the experiences that we've had, and, thinking or looking back when we feel now, based on our own awareness, what things our parents could have done. But, that's all easy to say after the fact. As you mentioned early on today, our parents did things based on their own awareness, and they did the best they could, and we can't necessarily find fault in that. But it's just, kind of as we learn in coaching, the why behind the why. Why does it escalate to the point in a relationship where, you don't want your son or daughter to have a father figure in their life? Are things that horrible to where you can't let go of that and really still have maybe two separate lives between you and your spouse or ex-spouse, but still understand the importance of, a foundation of a family, of having a father, having a mother, having a place to go and to share experiences with. Because I think that's in our innate desire to have that. We're brought into this world by two people that, created a beautiful thing. And as a result of their lack of efforts, we're going to suffer from that, or a child's going to suffer from that. It's a tough one.
I put that absentee parenthood or parenting in that same category as suicide. I don't know if y'all can hear my little man back there. He got some long.
Calling out for Uncle Ron.
Oh yeah, you get to meet him here soon, man. In a couple weeks, kind of. But yeah, I think that's the most selfish thing in the world, man. Is not being around the kid. Because at the end of the day, it's about them. It's about them, about the kids. And
there he is.
Say hey to Uncle Ron. Say hey, it's Messiah.
Messiah. I'm Messiah.
It's a bunch of people listening to us right now.
He's got your hair.
I know, right? Remember you had a head full, it all fell out, man. But it's about them, like I look at it and like, I mean, we have a great relationship now, but I'm sure peaches and cream, with Kanisha and I just think no matter what is, especially when it's a kid involved, you get so caught up around, well, they made me feel this way. They did this to me, or I. And we fail to think about it's a whole third party that can't fend for themselves. They didn't even ask to be in this situation.
Right.
And to not be around it is so selfish to me. And to not even want to take care of them or whatever the case may be. You don't might not be financially there, but hell, you can be physically there, emotionally there. Because man, hell, I couldn't even imagine another man raising him. Like
Yeah.
that draws up all kind of emotions and feelings in me.
Right.
Like, and I couldn't imagine it. And I'm sure she probably would feel the same way. Couldn't imagine another woman caring for him, So, like, I don't know, man. And that's just my personal opinion. I just think that's something selfish.
Yeah, and I think if you even look, kind of the root of maybe that selfishness, I think it still goes back to pain. That's how they deal with their pain, whether it's, my father using alcohol to, mask his pain, to others that just, make other decisions to not be present or, because it's too much pain. I mean, and oftentimes I'm assuming probably more than not, it's the pain of their past that's, kind of crept into their current life. And instead of dealing with past pain, they're going to, keep it in their presence by carrying that pain into a new relationship. So it's not as cumbersome on them when they feel like they can spread the pain to others, whether it's their ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or whoever. I mean, it's easy for us when we're not in that to, kind of have these prescriptions for how somebody might do it better. But I think we have opportunities as we evolve as humans to, as we learn in coaching, just taking that step back and experiencing what we're really feeling. It doesn't have to be all the data about, my childhood being, poorly treated by my parents or lack of love or any of these things that end up causing that person to feel the pain. What can they do in the present moment to understand that they can let go of that pain? They can accept it as the past. It's not a pain that has to carry them, with them, that they need to carry for the rest of their life. But unfortunately, we as evolved at times as we think we are as human beings, we're still very early on in our development as far as how we handle difficult situations. And, there's obviously a lot of help out there if people are willing to look for it. We do this because we try to help others to understand a little bit more about about opportunities that are out there for them. But having people just walk through life with blinders on and just see everything that's in front of them, they don't look outside of their normal vision to understand that there's people that love them, people that care about them, people that want to help them, people want to see their pain go away, and how that letting go can allow you to then potentially open up the opportunity to rekindle a relationship. I don't think it has to be something that's a permanent fixture in people's lives to assume that their father or mother that they've been, disengaged with or haven't spent the time with, to look at opportunities to hopefully fix that. I think we give up too easy in relationships. We give up too easy on opportunities to, move past experiences and accept them and move on to new opportunities for growth and connection. I think that's just the easy way to kind of stay stuck in your life, is to not do something, it's a little scary and pushes you a little bit harder.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, look at you. I mean, you're there with your amazing son, and like you said, you can't even imagine at this stage of your life of ever being separated from him or some other person, taking care of him as a result of your lack of attention. But it happens, right? I mean, I think there's probably a large percentage of those that, go completely opposite of that and lose that connection with their children, but may have had what you have right now at some point, and something went wrong. Something didn't get addressed. A need didn't get met. All those little things that we can look in our lives on a daily basis to meet those, or to allow those needs to be met, through simple conversations, through connections, through, self-awareness, through all these channels that we try to grow, ourselves into be better versions of ourselves. Because unfortunately these things happen as we're speaking, right?
Yeah.
Another relationship ends. Another child is uncertain about his future. Another child loses, contact with his father. Another child, has nobody to turn to have as a role model in their life. It's a tough situation. And who's responsible for that? We all are. We're responsible as individual men that are trying to do better in the world by doing what we do here on the channel and living our lives. Others that are stuck in it, should be dedicated to making changes in their life to, get the momentum going in the right direction.
Yeah. It's making me think about something I was working on for a speech. Study the nuances.
Yeah.
I don't know. I worded it. Study your nuances.
Yeah.
And it was because I was thinking it's around relationships and when you're arguing or whatever the case may be, when you have these very emotional well-ups, study the nuances behind them. Why is what they said making you angry or their action? And then it came from, focus on you, not on me. Don't focus on the person.
Mm-hmm.
The focus will always lie on you, because you can't ever control what people or circumstance gonna come your way. But the one thing you can control is you. You can't even, at least I haven't made it there yet. You can't control what thoughts pop up in your head,
Mm-hmm.
but you can control how you deal with them. And that's why I was thinking, study your nuances. What's the underlying thing to your anger or your hurt or whatever emotion you're feeling? Like, why is X making you feel this way? And go back and look at that.
Right.
And start to study that to, end up being in a better place. Whew. All right, that's arm workout every day. And that, I was like, wow, man, I didn't even know where that came from, but you just made me think about that. Study the nuances.
Yeah. And I love that. I think the other thing I was just kind of thinking about while you were saying that, and that was amazing what you just shared, is, imagine yourself as if you are that child. What do you need? What do you need from that parent that's not giving you that that expression or that, security or all those things that, what would you need if you were that child? And then, man, step up and give that to that child, knowing that that's what you would need, not what's in it for me, how it's going to affect my situation. If I give in to my ex-wife and let her decide that she's going to take him to this whatever, and I have an issue with it, think about the child. What does the child need right then? I'm not there as the father. He's being taken to a place where he's going to get some attention. He's going to get some affection. He's going to get some of the things that maybe I'm not ready to or willing to share with that child because of my own crap that I'm involved in. But what does that child need? Can I allow that to happen, knowing that if I was that child, that's what I would need? So why would I not want that for my own flesh and blood that I'm responsible for, or partially responsible for bringing into this world? And I guess that's just where the whole selfishness comes in. They just weigh the two. It's like, screw it. I'm gonna just be focused on what I need, and if that's at a detriment to my ex, my child, my career, anything else, I don't care, because that doesn't serve me in this moment. And I'm just going to make the decision to push the easy button. And again, it's the easy button. I think it seems so at times like it's, I don't know. I think it just gets glorified at times in the media, where you see these stories that just everybody gravitates towards because it's so horrific. But it's such a cowardly thing to do, to not spend time with your children, to find reasons to not engage. And, it's a work in progress for me. I mean, I'm really committed at this point in my life of being in full alignment with my family. So does that happen all the time? No. there's areas that I'm becoming more and more aware of, that in the past I would make the decision to do something that was, maybe more selfish to, get a certain result, versus I can do the same thing. And one of our fellow coaches, Greg Tahab, mentioned this: upgrade the vehicle. You want a desired result, instead of just doing the default of how you're achieving that, and you want that result, change the vehicle you're in. So that it came up the other day for me. I was just, I go on walks all the time, and I enjoy just kind of the experience of me doing a power walk and experiencing nature and all that. So the other day, it was like my wife was going to go for a walk, and it's like, why am I not taking time to experience that walk with her? So not that has to be the ongoing kind of way we do our exercise, but the default for me has always been to go and do my own exercise, and then collect back at the house and have a conversation, or go on for the rest of our day, versus we had a great time, we had a conversation, it was we had it was just a much different experience. And I think that's where subtle opportunities for those kind of shifts in how we kind of go through life can make big changes in our lives.
Wow, I love that. Upgrade the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So simple, but so profound. It's like, all right. It'll be a better ride. Change the tires. It's just a lot smoother.
Yeah. I mean, you still get to the desired, ending result, but it's a much more nourishing, fulfilling for all that's involved, versus it just being, a personal thing. And that's part of my work. That's what I'm really committed to as I move forward. Moving in a different direction with my career, and being in full alignment with my family. And it's for me, it's work in progress. It's not just talking the talk; it's walking the walk. And it's I really put myself in a situation where I'm fully engaged in all areas of my life, and that's a commitment that I've made to myself. And I plan to live the rest of my life with that being my part of the purpose of who I am as a man.
Man, this has been a good one, man. This has been a good one.
Yeah, and I think when as we mentioned early on, as men, there's times where there's like not the conversation around the Super Bowl or the boxing match or the cool car that I just bought. So what do we default to? Typically, as men, we don't engage, right? We just kind of go about our lives, versus what we try to do on this channel and in our lives is to hold ourselves accountable to having these types of conversations, to commit to you, the listener, to commit to us as men, to commit to our sons, our family, to not just play it easy and just kind of fall into some of the norms that society has for just living our lives. And how does change happen? It happens one person at a time. So we have to be willing as individuals, you the listener have to be willing as individuals to step forward, to not assume or think that life always has to be as it is. If you're not being an engaged father or husband right now, step it up. Find reasons and desires in your life that create that opportunity for everything to be amazing in your life. It doesn't have to be the default where you just kind of get stuck in that. Things are changing for you, Cedric, on a daily basis. You've got, career going on, you've got, family, you've got, new location you're living, you've got a lot of things going on. So how do you stay engaged as a man to all these areas, knowing that there's going to be, outside pressures or outside influences that could make you, kind of rethink what your strategy is, and how do we stay that course? We create these relationships, we have connections, we talk as men, we be vulnerable, we speak our truths, we feel our feelings, all these things that we try to really exemplify here for you the listeners, or to share as you the listeners to others that might really benefit from this conversation.
Yeah, I feel like we're just trying to be the change we want to see in men within the world. Because like you say, we default to either grunting, I don't know about it, or to something macho,
Right.
women, or whatever the case, or sports, mostly. But I love what we have going on here and being change that we want to see. And y'all, I promise you, we get on and it's almost been a year. But every week it's still just as hard as it was. It's not as hard as it was the first time, but some of the subjects, it's like, well, oh, wow, I'm really going to have to give my personal input on this subject that I haven't really talked about with the public.
Right.
And here it is, I got to talk to a whole nother man and then present it to the world, from my perspective as a male, and that's not easy. And so we're just being an example.
And I think all of our topics are, to me, poignant, important. I think tonight's topic around just the roles we play as parents and how, kids are influenced short-term and long-term by the actions that we take. That's a very serious, we're creating the future. We're expecting, as we evolve as human beings, the next generation has a better life than we have. So why are we not willing to look at that as being one of the most important conversations we can have? Not that the conversations we've had about, our heart or our feelings, our vulnerability, all these other things are very amazing things for us to discuss. But, if you're looking at a way to really influence change in the world, you make that change with your children, make that change with your ex or your girlfriend or any of those things where you're not giving the attention needed to that child that deserves the best version of yourself, to not fall into the same traps that we've fallen into, to not make the same bad decisions that we've made, to make better decisions, to live a better life than we have had. I challenge anybody that listens to this to really make that commitment. Subtle changes to big changes, to ensure that child has the best possible opportunity for living an amazing life.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah,
man, you closed it out great right there, dude. I can't follow that up.
Well, I just appreciate you just kind of coming from your heart and what was on your mind tonight, because I think that brings kind of that vulnerability to this, what we do. So again, sometimes we come into this with a hot topic that we're like ready to talk about. Other times we're like, what do you want to talk about? I don't know. Other times we're like, as we mentioned, let's just skip it this week. And no, let's not skip it. There might be somebody that is waiting to listen to that episode because it might give them some hope for change in their life. So we're committed to doing what we do and to continue to enhance our own lives, as well as hopefully enhance you, the listeners, that might benefit from it. So I appreciate each and every one of you, and love the fact that you are willing to take part of your life to listen to what we have to say, and to look at it as we always have said, we're just two, I wouldn't say ordinary men. I think that's kind of a selling ourselves short. We're two pretty amazing men, right?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Having an authentic conversation, and I'll leave it at that. I'll let Ced say his goodbyes and peace out to all of you folks out there.
Just hope somebody got something that they could take away, or something that they could impart on somebody else. Hey, man, I love it. I love you guys. Y'all are inspiration for us to keep doing it. Man, I just love y'all. Love you, Ron.
Love you too, sir. And check out last week's episode. As I mentioned, we had a very cool conversation with a generational conversation around vulnerability. So check that out. It was just a very cool conversation.
Yeah,
and you guys to give us some input on that and how it went for you guys.
Yeah. So until next week, y'all. Namaste.
Namaste, sir.
Yeah, smooth criminal trying to keep it minimal. Sensual with these bars, keep it deep as a swimming pool. Hey, who you kidding? Do when I rhyme, it's your written rule to keep your ears laced like you was tying your tennis shoes.